Um, if anyone would like to access this later or some resources, I'll provide my information a little later.
Yes, and we are recording it. We are recording it.
Excellent. Thank you, Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, welcome to Wellness Week 2020, financial wellness. I'll be talking about some business aspect of some approaches that we'll take and talk about how to plan for financial aspect of your life during this COVID or even post-COVID. And just a little bit about myself. I am a professional staff at National Louis University. I work in the budget and finance area. I've been with National Louis for a little over a year, almost a year and a half, and also started teaching right after I joined. So as an adjunct professor, and both of those are always simultaneous for me. In the past, I've been at the Chicago School of Psychology at University of Illinois, Chicago. I also was in Wisconsin for a couple of years as an assistant dean of continuing education, where we developed some new programs, almost of an entrepreneurship type of strategies and approach, of course, being the professional development side of things. And as an entrepreneur, I've been in Chicago for about 30 years, a little over 30 years, and have had the opportunity to work with CPS and several nonprofit organizations. I was board of directors on a few. And a lot of those, I'll talk about how that helped to strategize my approach towards my profession and career, and how I got to where I'm at in terms of my approaches with. So that's part of what we'll discuss. Being in the current condition, so we talk a lot about what social distancing and the pandemic and all that, of course, so everyone's aware of it. And National Louis University leadership has done a great job of kind of sharing, keeping us up to date about what's happening with the Illinois laws and what is it that we're doing to move all the classes online. And so what this little picture here kind of shows is that this doesn't need to bring you down. There are a lot of ideas that could come along the way as we're just kind of staying away, social distancing and all that. But what can you do in the meantime to go from what a condition we're in to an exciting career that could come out of this, or some strategies that you can put in place. So when the market and the cities and states and borders do open up, that you're ready for those kind of approaches and opportunities. So just want to discuss what the session will be and will not be. So I don't want you to think that you're coming in here and I'm going to give some stock tips and financial ideas that'll help you become a millionaire overnight or maybe by the end of this year, 2020. That's not what this session is about. And it may touch a little bit about finances, budgeting, maybe even business step-by-step guide. However, the actual presentation will dive into some of the opportunities that are out there. So there's two approaches we'll talk about, maybe from a professional and individual standpoint versus business. And each of those two sections will talk about the plans that you see at the bottom part of the slide here. It says, we'll talk about the different plans that you could have in place, how to approach those plans, what are some of the resources that are out there. And then we'll share some ideas. Even Cindy got involved in some of these things, exciting ideas about what ideas can we do. And this is exactly what it's all about. It should get you excited. And then together, we actually even put together some resources, some links that are available to you that you can use. And many of them are for free. And we'll dive into that. So this is what the session will be about. So as I mentioned earlier, that it is an opportunity in two different areas. So one is professional development. So what does that even mean? I'll dive into that. How can you continue to build your own expertise within your own areas? I will talk about that. And then the other aspect of this presentation will be from the financial standpoint, is going into your own business. And again, like I said, there are a ton of resources that are out there about step-by-step guide, but this again, we'll talk about in the previous slide, as I said, what are some of the approaches and planning phases you can accomplish successfully. So let's talk about professional development first, and the 5 and the resources that are out there, some of the ideas we'll talk about, and then the links that will flash on the screen. However, it might be too much for you to gather, but we can share that with you later. So in terms of planning, one of the key things that a lot of individuals who are planning their own profession they miss out on is thoroughly researching it. I mean, really getting into the details. And I think one key step that I learned over time is literally writing it down. I think it's important to so especially if you're going into a new venture. So if you're starting out as a new career, then this is important for you to literally sit down and write it down. Look at what your long-term interest is. What are some of the things that you think will be sustainable? Like if you're looking at the market and saying, I'm going to go into accounting, then I think accounting is something that every organization will need and will be long-term sustainable. But when you look into the technology aspect, it's ever evolving. So when you're going into a technical field, then you got to be a little bit more mindful about what exactly what area that you're going into within technology and how long is that going to be in demand before it's obsolete and you're without a job, or you're struggling to kind of shift gears there. So those are the things that you need to, when you're venturing off into a new field, you need my current profession, you can also actually put together some ideas in terms of, all right, I can build on my, and especially during the downtime. I call it downtime just because you're staying at home, but that doesn't mean everyone's free. However, if you're saving some time on commuting, or if you're saving some time on not having to, get on the bus or interrupted throughout your day, and if you get that hour or two to yourself, then perhaps that is something that you can utilize to implementing some of these ideas that we're going to talk about. So that's one thing that you can actually build on your current field and just kind of enhance your skills. But the other thing you can also do is kind of acquire some of the complementary skills. And by that, I mean, if you're in finance, you can learn a little bit about accounting. If you're doing web development, so perhaps you can learn a little bit more about app development and acquire some of the complementary skills. Mental health professions can do a little bit more in social work. I mean, there's a lot of complementary skills that you can develop that would help you to grow and probably venture off down the road, or expand it into your own services that you offer. So those are some of the things that you may want to do. So if you're and again, on this slide, we talked about what are some of the things that you could do if you're venturing off into a new field versus growing it within your own professional approach. So professional development approach, again, it's literally being, obviously you have to be disciplined, but then what are some of the things you're looking at? You have to be thorough. Learn everything about whatever that it is that you're planning on doing. And that, of course, it means what is the future of the profession that you're going into. We talked about sustainability, but the approach that you can take to even learn about new things within that field as you're growing is networking. So learn from people who've already been there, who are there, and who understand the ropes of that profession. So obviously we know LinkedIn and Meetup are some key that work with people. However, there are others that are Zing. There are various community forums. And so these are also, everything has actually gone online. Much of it was already online, and because of the cities being shut down and social distancing, everything went online, including board of directors and those kind of positions. My personal experience has been when I was at even finishing my undergrad, at that time, I just went into working for a nonprofit just as voluntary basis. And when I learned what it is that the organizations do and behind the scene work, what I started doing was just kind of applying for positions. So there was, at that time, this was about 15 years ago, a couple of websites that actually offered professionals like me who were interested in working on boards and volunteering my time there. There were some resources available to do that. Now there's a dime a dozen. LinkedIn came up with their own approach to recruiting board members who are interested, or people that are professionals that are interested in becoming board members. So there is an avenue you can take there to join boards. Idealist.org is another one, which is probably going to be on our links that we'll offer. So what you could do is actually join these boards, and that's when your networking can expand. It's not just talking to them about the current organization that you're working for, but strategize some of the things that can you do. So one of the boards that I worked on was El Circulo, and this was in Pilsen in that area. And what we ended up doing was a friend of mine and I, she also was a graduate of the Chicago School of Psychology, and we ended up forming our own nonprofit organization, which was in terms of supporting CPS with social emotional learning. And so we ended up creating a nonprofit called Mentes Radiantes and just went about working for about 6 years. We've been doing this at CPS. So it's just networking, and you never know what's going to come out of it. You have to have an open mind and kind of take that approach in your own professional development as well. So the resources that are available. So obviously library, we hear it all the time. And now more and more libraries are, any resources they don't have, they've made it available through another library that they have partnered with. So always make sure you kind of extend your search through the library and reach out and to make sure that you take advantage of it. So NLU has a lot of partnership out there as well. Your local libraries, wherever you live in the neighborhood and the cities you live in. Free resources, I mean, free courses that are available. We'll share the links with you, but they're, you know, that's something they can always acquire. Now, if you want like a certificate or something beyond that, there might be a nominal fee for that. It might be either $20 or $70, but at the end of this course, not only that you've acquired the skills, but now you can put that on your resume that you received a certification. And some of these resources that actually are offering are Yale and Harvard that are offering it for free online. And when you end up getting a certificate, you can place that on your resume as well. There are also online assessments that you can take to help you determine what profession you want to go into. So now if you're thinking about kind of expanding and broadening your services or your own skills in this case, what you should do is take that assessment. There are a lot of free ones out there, and some of the courses that I know you actually also offer that. And so you can probably work with a career bridge and understand what is it that you might be interested in, or might actually open your mind to different ideas about your own profession, and maybe take on those complementary courses to expand your skill sets and make you more marketable at the end of this whole thing. So some ideas that that even Cindy, in this case, she contributed to a lot of these. And when we were talking about ideas, like what can you do sitting at home? Now, I've done a lot of this with students and even professionals or new graduates who are trying to get into a career, and talk to them about ideas. So some of this actually comes from that as well. Technology based. So you see some of the few headers. There's too many to fit into this, but some key areas that you can really look into is technology. You can look into going into some programming. So if you've already doing, like I said earlier, your complementary skills, if you're already doing some sort of programming, it shouldn't be that difficult for you to acquire a new set. And become creative and do something new. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was he uses Adobe Premiere to do a lot of video editing, and he met another graduate from, I think he was from DePaul University, where he ended up learning some new skills about Adobe Premiere. He said, "Why don't you use Photoshop?" I was like, "Well, Photoshop is a completely different software." Well, then he said, "Well, you can create tiles in Photoshop, which you can implement into your Adobe. So now you have 4 different videos coming in and giving you their feed, rather than investing 2 hours of your time in Adobe Premiere to do 4 different video feeds." He said, just create that in Adobe Photoshop and then link it to that. So these ideas just come about, and those are complementary skills that you can work within software. In education, you might see some of these repeat in the business side of things as well. But in this case, we're looking at teaching, coaching. I mean, a lot of this could be done online. There are a lot of resources. I keep getting this email from one of the resources that I connected with through LinkedIn, and he's constantly asking me to join an advisory board, so to help businesses kind of expand and upscale and things like that, or scaling up, and what are some of the things that they could do. And that's something that's an online coaching, which could lead into some different career that you might end up doing. Medical profession that you can also do. There are courses that you can take for free. I've learned that even pharmacy technician, you can start a job and then you have a year or maybe even 18 months to finish your certification. So you can start a job as a pharmacy tech or a medical assistant and then acquire those necessary credentials a little later. So there are opportunities as such as well. Sound engineering, video editing, kind of hand in hand, yet completely different separate software that you might be using. And as I mentioned, Adobe is one big one for the video editing side. There's Pro Tools that you can use for sound engineering. Sound engineering, one of the things I was thinking about, considering that I have about 20 years of experience with working with bands and including my own band, one of the things that I was thinking about doing is a great retirement thing to plan for. So because I see all these sound engineers come on stage and set up in big halls that were balancing the sound and acoustics of it. But then once I get to a certain level of my career or satisfaction, this could be a next transition phase for me to go into sound engineering. Why not? So again, that's complementary skills that I could acquire now to help my retirement kind of be a little bit more exciting in the sound and engineering rather than rather than necessarily. Well, I enjoy teaching, so I'm not gonna put that one down at all. I love it. And then culinary chefs. So Cindy found a great website, which we'll also share with you, where you can acquire cooking skills and culinary skills, where you can actually go off in that direction and kind of shift your professional career. And here's some links. I mean, and each of these links have a ton of resources. I mean, we could, and I know you would agree, Cindy, there's a ton of resources, and it cannot possibly fit in it. And each one of those links actually have 200 to 300 courses that are offered for free. And I think all of you should be taking advantage of that, because there's absolutely abundance of resource that is available for free. Some are even going to continue even after the pandemic. A lot of them are actually now free because of the pandemic, and why not take advantage of that? And I was when we were planning this presentation in April, one of the things I was looking at was, well, April 30th was the deadline, but then of course with the extension of stay home and social distancing from the cities and state, these websites also updated to extend out through May or June. So you may want to check those out and take advantage of them now. And especially when you go through the first few phases of it to understand, is it really something that I want to do? And once you determine your path, then go right to it and start searching for those courses. And you'll see some of these ideas also come into a business side of things, and why these links are applied to both areas. So going into your own business. Now let's talk about the other branch that I talked about earlier. One was in professional development. The other is, let's say, going into your own business. And we'll kind of touch bases on all 5 of the same areas: planning, approach, resources, ideas, and then we'll provide some links to you. All right. So it doesn't, this is something that would be very much consistent, where we're saying that you have to be thorough and you write things down literally. I mean, there's a ton of information out there. Your mind could go into so many different directions, but one of the key things you want to keep in mind is, how can you first identify what is it that you're going into? And you can come up with that with kind of thinking about, what are the problems that you see around you that need some sort of solution that doesn't exist, or a solution that isn't viable or effective, and you can come up with something new that could help the organizations, whether it's nonprofit, state, public, or even private organizations. So one of the things that I'm doing right now, and working with a team of developers in Vietnam, is forming an app in human resources, and it is in recruitment. So it isn't about just next Indeed or LinkedIn. This is beyond that. This is kind of using some algorithm. And Cindy and I talked about that. And these are some of the algorithms that the app will use to, so when the job notifications comes to your app, you're already getting an offer. It's not like you'll go through an interview. So those are algorithms. Those are some of the, a lot of preconditions that are met before the offers made to the candidates. So it's kind of interesting, and that's actually what I use as my sales pitch. So when you're going into these business ideas and things like that, you'll naturally come up with, the more you talk about it, even as you take your walks, just think through it and talk about it out loud. It'll make sense to you, and then you might land on something that makes sense in the environment that we're in right now. And make sure that it's something that you're passionate about. So let me give you an example. If you're going into this restaurant, so if you're going into a restaurant business, for example, you're thinking, of course, right now we're an online restaurant, and I'll talk a little bit about that, trying to be a middle person in this whole thing. But let's say if you're going to restaurant business and you're looking at, there's constant menu updating, there's food that you have to look at your competitors, your neighborhood, what's not being offered, what's offered. You have to have licenses, location. Are you ready for that kind of headache? I mean, those are the things that you have to think through before you just jump on an idea. Now, of course, when you're going into an online business, there's different types of headache that come with an online business, but you have to be, that's why in the middle of this slide, you see, what's your absolute passion? You have to be passionate about it, because while I did all my professional work and now I'm venturing off into my own business, or did 6 years ago with nonprofit, these were all my passions. That's why I got away with sleeping for 4 hours a day and yet continued to work towards that, because that has to be your passion. So when you're going into your own business, because you're investing all these resources, there's already limited out there, you're venturing into something business, you have to make sure that you're planning it properly and you're passionate about it. So if you go into an online business, for example, you're sitting there in front of a computer all day. right? There's a lot of that that's taking place, especially when you're doing global. So you may not be traveling from the very beginning, from the get-go of your business. You might be doing a lot of work online. This right now, what we're doing is a great experience for all of us to sit in front of computers for 8 hours without moving. Well, I mean, you're supposed to take Alexa here in the back, talks to me and says, it's time to get up and start walking. And so, I mean, but other than that, you're constantly doing this, just sitting around in front of computers. So keep that in mind as well as you're planning your business. So the approach you can take is learn everything, every single thing about your business. Whatever your planning phase, you're spit out at the end of the whole thing, you said, this is what I want to do. And that bright idea of yours, then you got to dive into it and learn everything about it. What's out there, where are those type of businesses located? And a lot of nonprofits that I got involved in weren't located in the area that I worked or even lived in. So now I had a third location to go to. So leave home in the morning, go to work, and then after work I would go to those meetings. So like it's a full triangle, but it's a lot of driving. So, but I was passionate about it. So those are some of the things that I started looking at. Where are my business going to be operating under CPS or on the north side or whatever. And then knowing your competition is key. You have to understand who's out there, some of the giants. So whatever you're trying to do, they can just throw $100,000 and kind of copy your idea, and that's it. One of the things I learned was in terms of copying ideas, you could patent an idea. This came out in 2013, I believe. You can patent an idea for 6 months, maybe to a year, but then after that, it's up for grabs. So kind of play it smart. Having a lawyer and things like that, attorney for your business is important. Take online business development courses. So we talked about professional development. One of the approach to building your own business as well is to, why not take those online free courses? My cousin got into his own business recently, and he said, Asif, go ahead and take these professional development courses. They're free. It'll teach you some of the best things about making sure your business foundation is strong as you launch. A few of the things that I started looking at was accounting things, that in terms of how do I organize my LLC to make sure that there's constant evolving business laws when it comes to accounting. How can I keep up with that just to make sure that my organization doesn't get into trouble with IRS and things like that? So, you know, that is your professional development for your own business. So now I'm building my own sense of understanding and skills for my own business rather than when I'm working for another somebody else. So either way, these courses will come in handy that we talked about earlier. See, online business forums. So attending conferences, I think these are online business forums are taking place a lot these days. There is even some with some corporations that are offering it with classes or free 30-minute sessions with professionals who have already done it. Then they're done that type of, and they come back and want to give their time to young professionals or those that are new in a career or a business. And so Allstate does one good job of offering these classes in the evening so that after work you can attend those classes and even network over there as well. Universities and nonprofit sessions that take place in nonprofit organizations also offer these corporate sponsored events, like I said. And then there's about, I don't know, 1,000 that you can easily find with just an online search. And your keyword has to be important. So if you know that in Google, if you put quotes, it doesn't disregard that particular phrase or word. So when you're typing in Google and you know that this is what you're looking for, that's the quote you want to put around. Same thing with library. When you go to libraries, online database, when you're searching for something, put quotes, and it'll make sure that whatever title or author or whomever you're searching for in those quotes, it makes sure that it has it and it filters out in your search results. There's so many ideas that are pitched as business ideas, conferences where you can attend. Venture competition is another one where you can even compete and win some money there with venture capitalists who give free money or even give you free ideas or whatever comes out of it. These are all resources that are available to you. Most of them, actually, I would say good 99% of them are free right now. And good 90% of those 99 are also free, even after the social distancing or whatever. So take advantage of those.
Asif, we got a question. So someone asked, how do you patent your ideas? Because you talked about patent and you talked about ideas. How do you patent them?
Yeah, so carefully, of course, because you're putting out a lot of details there. Much like in the world of technology and coding, I didn't go through. What I did was when I worked for IBM, I actually designed their patent. They were venturing off in patenting in 2000. 2001 is when IBM went into that. So I learned a lot about patenting then. And then when I continued to research some of the ideas, my brother went out and patented some of the things for car seat belts and things like that. But when you patent an idea, which started off in 2013, which is fairly new, and a lot of attorneys are still getting used to that idea, or how much should you give? I mean, it's like any other patent. So if you're talking about a ballpoint pen, you know that each one of those are patented differently. So you have to be careful about what you disclose. So in this case, it's a product that people cannot steal. But when you have an idea, you probably have to disclose maybe some of the codings, maybe some of the even if the user interface, what the screen looks like, all of that had to be including details in there. So once you've down, so it's a lot of details. Basically, all you're doing is writing down a lot of details about your idea, much like what you would do with your business plan. You're not necessarily submitting your entire business plan as your patent idea, but your niche is where you lock it in. So it's not, if I'm going for an app that is in human resources and recruitment, I'm not going to just say I'm patenting human resources and recruitment idea on an app that's already exists. How is mine different from others is where that niche is what needs to be included in an application. Now, I'm no expert as an attorney. However, that's my experience working with attorneys and talking to them and going through my own approach. But you should reach out, and that's something you can even research online, that it's available to be doing that for you to patent your ideas.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's about it for resources. Obviously, we know social media is dime a dozen resources that pop up. All the organizations that you know of are now on social media. So easy way to do that is follow through, sign up for notifications when they have some new events that are taking place. Now it might get a little bit more, sometimes redundant, and sometimes at the same time it's just filling up your inbox, and that's something you have to filter through. But if you're passionate about it, and if you're really looking for things, just take 5 minutes to delete what's not useful, but that one thing that's out there that might be useful, or some one event that you can attend that might be coming through your inbox, is what you want to attend. So I mean, I sit there for 5 minutes and I just delete through some of the useless information for me. I've already been there or not needed for my purpose, or I even share it with my network, because that's how I'm building my networking skills, right? I'm continuing, or kind of staying in touch with my network, and I'm just saying, hey, look, this is what I found. I know we talked about it, and here you go. This is something that you could use. Just the other day, I received one for this one of the gals was looking for some MBA programs, and I came across this. They talked about financial um, advantages of attending their school and things like that. And I forwarded it on to her. She was very, grateful of that. Maybe she never would have seen it, or maybe you never heard of that university. But when I got it, and I remembered her talking to me about it a couple of weeks ago, I forwarded it to her. And that's just constantly staying in touch with your network. So someday, it's a give and take. It's not always take in your networking and relationships. So some of the ideas that we talked about, that Cindy and I talked about, and I've talked about to a lot of the professionals who are venturing off into their own business, are as such. And I talked about entertainment world a lot. And I think because that's something that a lot of individuals have done, especially that last one you see within entertainment is the YouTube channel. Anything that you're doing, including this kind of sessions that I do, could easily be on YouTube and gain audience. And I've watched a lot of channels. You may have heard about it, $70,000 a year for doing nothing. Well, it's not doing nothing. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of followers. But to get to that, there's probably multiple of these boxes that you need to be in to gain an audience in one or the other area. So for what I'm saying here is, let's say if you want your YouTube channel to grow and you want subscribers, you may be writing a blog somewhere. You might be posting it on your LinkedIn every time something new goes on. Maybe your network needs to. So that you're doing some of the other things alongside that is helping your YouTube channel grow with subscribers. Like-minded people, or maybe even complementary people. So if you're looking into, I've several different areas that I've gone into my background. So all of them could be attracted, or maybe some of them could be attracted, but it depends on what is it that you're doing. Remember we talked about the whole business idea and really thinking through what you're passionate about. Was YouTube is one of the things that you really need to think about before you go into it. Because once you got your set of audience and what you're doing, many of us already know this, right? We subscribe to a channel only because it's like-minded people or something that attracts you and just gets your mind thinking. So I'm going into a lot of spirituality discussions, then I'll go sign up for those kind of channels. My music is another thing. So I'm signing up for drummers who are presenting lessons like that. So those are the channels that I subscribe to. And what is it out there that people will sign up for your channel? So think through that. Sales, T-shirt and silk screening. And I think that Cindy is very passionate about that. And one of the things that I've seen a lot of my organizations do is every time there's a walk or something, we're running to get T-shirts. And so now when you drive on 294 or 290 or some of those highways, you see billboard that you can get T-shirts or for 99 cents. I mean, so obviously there's a lot of work that goes behind the scene. And so there's upfront costs, and then those T-shirts are 99 cents. So it's not always that cheap, because I've been through a lot of these walks and fundraising events where I wish they were 99 cents. Amazon, we've heard about it so many times. That's something you can look into if you have the ability to. Again, like I said, you can go into so many different ways, but there might be multiple boxes that are linking to that one thing that you want to do. Technology, so you go back to Amazon or YouTube. And if you're doing your own networking, so you might want to go to LinkedIn and all of those to get your Amazon audience and YouTube channel audience. Photography, we talked about. There are some links that you'll see maybe in a couple of slides, next slide, where there's some free photography lessons that are offered, and then how you can use technology to kind of and create some shots that that are rare out there. And I think that's something that you could end up selling. And we end up, when we do our big shows and we need those, you've seen those on the LED screens in the back, there are a lot of those different views or different earthly figures, or if there's some band or something like that. All of those are things that we had to purchase. They weren't available for free. So they would have their watermark and things like that. So we couldn't just use them, or licensing wise. So we have to pay for them and buy them and be able to use them on our big screens. So you could be the next sales on that once you take the photography lessons. And it's easy to do. And Chicago and other areas are so beautiful, where this time of transition from winter to spring to summer, this nature is beautiful out there. Training coaches and leadership coaching and training and development, all you can do online. If somebody who has speaking skills or ability to offer consultation or some suggestions, things like that, you can do some leadership coaching. Leaders are always looking for good and new ideas. And if you're one of those who are into library resources or researching, if you've done your any thesis or research in the past, if you have developed some of that passion for this, you can do some research to get that out there. Now, this middle person thing, so middleman, middle person, the idea is you are the link. You are being the link between a business. So you're doing B2B or B2C. You're connecting businesses and businesses to customers. That has become a really big business, especially if you have a YouTube channel or some other blog or something like that. You can start marketing other companies and send them resources or customers. And when you do that, you get some share of that sales that's done through your customers, through any customer that you send. Or if you look at Amazon as one prime example of it, where you can buy from somewhere else and sell to customers. So now you're becoming that middle person there to, in this case, you're doing sales. So what is it that you can offer? You can offer either ideas or customers, or just be a sounding board or something like that, where you become that middle person who connects business to other ideas, business to business, business to customers. That business, by the way, has grown significantly in the last 5 to 7 years. And a lot of my friends have gone into it because they've, and so you've got those now that link that you can form with organizations. So that's something that leaders are also looking for. How can we bring in the next person? You can just form an organization of yourself and then go from there. Okay, so in here, what I did was kind of divide the resources into different areas. So if you're looking at going into your own business, there's some startup resources. Very highly recommended. Some of our NLU staff are also volunteers and mentors for 1871. That's a Chicago-based organization. And then you see the rest of the links. So then for freelancing at the bottom left, some Upwork and Freelancer are the two popular sites. But then if you go to that third site where there's freelance jobs that it says, it has, I don't know, almost about another 100 or so areas that you can go into. Now, keep in mind, once you have your skill set and your ability to do something, whether it's Photoshop, editing, writing, creating presentations, whatever it is that you can sell on any of those freelancing sites, just multiply it by 100 when you go to different sites, just posting yourself up on all of those sites. And you never know where someone's going to be looking for resources that may end up on your profile and may end up hiring you. Of course, you have to put a lot of research into this as well. What is the average cost? What is the cost for you? If you're going to sit there, are you going to charge $10 an hour, or are you going to charge $30 to $50 an hour? Obviously, you're in it for the money, but at the same time, you have to know your market rates and things like that. What is your own personal value? Like, why are you charging more than others on these websites? So that's something that you have to be mindful of. You can easily lose a customer. They won't even talk to you if they see you just based on price. But if they look at your profile and your portfolio, and they might, and something that they might like, I've done that. I've gone with through Upwork and end up getting somebody who designed a logo for one of the companies. And so then my obviously cost was important to me, but at the same time, I looked at the portfolio and went with somebody who would charge $15 more, but ended up helping out, a great deal with the kind of product they produced, and the quality was great. So the upcoming conference that's coming up for 2020, that's in May, I think 14th something. Look it up, Chicago Ideas. It's right here in Chicago. Of course, this time it might be online. I'm pretty sure it's going to be online. And so attend it. Some of those sessions are free, where they pitch ideas in all different aspects of business. So it's not just technology, it's not just education, it's all over the place. And it just depends on who's presenting or who's brought in and who signs up. And I have a feeling that a lot of people will sign up even if it's online, because not only that it makes it easier for them to attend and present, but also the audience have grown significantly because of this social distancing. So I want to leave you with this quote here that I've always lived by, and it's if it's to be, it's up to me. And that's something that really made sense to me when I heard it, I don't know, 30 years ago. But it made sense to me that if anything that's going to happen, it's going to happen because I need to take that first step. So you need to take that first step, no matter what direction you're going in. Resources are available, but that step needs to come from you. You reach out to people, you reach out to the web, you reach out to whatever it is that you need to reach out to in order to get you started. Even if it's reaching out to someone to motivate you, just to motivate you, because you've got the ideas, but you're not motivated, or both, lack of both, whatever it is, somehow figure out what is that push. But that's has to be, it's you that makes it happen, not anyone else. Down the road, when you put in a lot of effort, I've seen that it's fruitful, that when they see that I'm putting a lot of effort, people just reach out and help you to grow. And so, and much like this session here that the team put together this entire week, and Cindy worked very closely with me on this to make sure we provide this resource to you. Now it's here, right? So the first step has to come from you, but they've taken the step to reach out to you and say, hey, look, it's available. What can we do next? And with that, I want to thank you for your time. And that's my email address at NLU. And reach out to me or through Cindy and the team, the student services. I have no problem trying to be there for you and bounce off ideas anytime. Cindy, if there are any questions, something that
does anyone have any, to ask what department you work in? So what department do you work in?
Oh, so I work for Marty, and everyone knows Marty, and that's in finance. And so that's the professional staff position, but under CPSA as the adjunct professor role. So, and I teach business, entrepreneur courses, and data analysis for business managers, those type of courses within CPSA.
Do we have any questions? Like, he knows his business stuff. So if you guys are thinking of any questions, please, just some time to ask it. And yes, I do like t-shirts. I can't lie. And I want to do a t-shirt business. Sounds like a great idea. Okay.
It is a great idea. Yeah.
And I do have a t-shirt that I just got from my sister about hustling and healing. So yeah, okay. I'm all about the t-shirts.
Yes.
So does anyone have any additional questions or anything before we end our session? Okay. So thank you so
It
much.
was fantastic. Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, As.
Yes.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
so much. If not, then we end here. Tomorrow is our ending of a wellness week. So we hope that you would join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. And we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and its impact on the Black community. And also we're doing bingo. So I hope you guys are doing your bingo cards and everything. So thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.